I've seen a lot of mixed reviews for Japan Sinks, and it's probably by far like the weakest Science SARU show in a while. But there is a lot of good with it, and it might just be the biggest shitpost of all time. So I feel like I need to prepare anyone's expectations if they haven't seen this show. There's going to be a lot of moments that are just there for shock value. For some reason, being a Netflix adaptation, every episode has to have a cliffhanger. If there's no cliffhanger, we can't have that episode. Not allowed. The first episode, for example, this is Japan Sinks, so obviously Japan is literally sinking in the ocean, no surprise there. But for no reason, bodies fall out of the sky from a helicopter. There's literally no reason for this. It's not really addressed in the next episode, other than they cover up the bodies. But they fall out of a helicopter, and it's just there so that blood can get on the characters after this very wholesome scene, and it's oh, we need an edgy reason for why you should watch the next episode. It was so crazy. I thought are there zombies, or is there supernatural zombies now? Is that how much the world is falling apart? No, none of that. It was just a dumb cliffhanger. So if you want the history of how this came to be, definitely go watch Joe from Positive Select's video, because he talks about the original novel and movie from, I believe, 1976. As you can tell, Japan Sinks deals with the crises that face Japan. Originally, it was an oil crisis in 1976. Then there was even a 2006 movie, which seemed to be more about dealing with a lot of disasters that came before. Even 9/11 and an earthquake. But this movie, it's got quite more to work with, because 3/11 happened, and that's kind of a big deal. It's kind of referenced in almost every recent huge disaster movie in Japan. Shin Godzilla, even Gatchaman Crowds, which I talked about before, which is kind of related to this, because for some reason this movie is just connected to the network of the internet. This 2020 Japan Sinks. We have esports players, we have YouTubers. I'm vibing with it. I don't know about everyone else. I've seen some people complaining about the cheesy esports crammed into there, but I'm just vibing with this young kid who's yeah, Japan might be sinking in the ocean, but I gotta start my esports career, guys. He's a true gamer. And to be honest, the gamers in this show are overpowered. They have all the strategy. For some reason, the gamers are always able to connect to the internet when no one else is. They're just out of the league. Same with YouTubers. They know how to get things done. And this is Yuasa. The first episode literally starts out with a track scene, and I'm getting Devilman flashbacks already. You can tell from the first scene, things are gonna go south real quick. You just don't start with a track scene if shit's not gonna go down, and that's exactly what happened. So the message of the story is obviously, the baton is being passed to this younger generation, and you see all these people who are attached to this, old identity of Japan going down with the ship, that kind of thing. There's a lot to analyze here, and I'm not even sure I can cover it all, because I'm just going off the script, and really, this show is so corny. I really recommend, if you want to watch this, you grab some friends, because there are two options here. You can either cry uncontrollably, because there's just so much shock, or you can actually just laugh, because you could consider this a comedy, a B movie, or a mix of the two. Either, both of them work. You can do both at the same time. That's how I approached it. The first episode, for example, is just so in your face with people being destroyed by this disaster. But then all of a sudden, it gets wholesome. The entire family manages to reunite by... It was so wholesome. I want to stress that the best part of this movie is just the dialogue. The story is dumb. Even the characters are commenting, what is this, some old science fiction novel? And yeah, that's what it is. One of the characters in this show is just a reference to the old movie and novel, I think. He's Mr. Onodera, and he's just the mad scientist guy, because he's the one who predicted that Japan would sink, and everyone's yeah, it's never gonna happen. But he's directly referenced in these first few episodes, and even becomes a character later. But this movie really acknowledges that, yeah, it's very cheesy. You're just gonna have to embrace that this is a stupid show. I saw one Redditor commenter say the worse and worse it gets, the better and better it gets. And I have to agree. But there's only a certain point where that actually applies. There's a few episodes I think you should skip. There's this one arc where they meet a cult, and I just think this is kind of bad. I understand where it's coming from, because yeah, this anime is definitely dealing with like 311 and stuff, but it must be also carrying over like how there are just crazy cults in Japan, which like just do indiscriminate attacks on people's lives. Take for example, the most famous one being the sarin gas attack. Happened a long time ago, but yeah, cults in Japan are just crazy. So this arc does kind of tie into the themes, but it just feels so out of place that you might as well skip episodes 4 through 6. And yeah, those episodes just felt like filler, like it just needed to be padded out to 10 episodes, 7 wasn't enough. With the show being such a mixed bag and having so many issues, is it even worth watching? That's at least something I considered while finishing episode 2. The cliffhanger of episode 2, it's pretty rough, and honestly, all these cliffhangers, like I've said, are almost counterproductive to the point. This video would have been out sooner if I was just able to watch this show in one sitting, which is doable if you have a friend, or anything like that. But after completing an episode, chances are you probably won't want to watch the next one. And until a day later, you're just like curious, you're like, what the hell just happened there? And you'll come back, curious enough where you want to watch more, but like offensive at the same time that like, you really just showed me that? Like, this was the most contrite thing possible. But somehow, all these mistakes were just like made fine in the end. Because like I said, the story was always the weakest point. The dialogue is where it's at. And as all the characters get eliminated and we're left in isolation, suddenly like we're having these like relaxing conversations. Japan has literally sunk already by like episode 8, and we're just having a good time at sea, at the ocean, with some like good dialogue and great characters. Like these characters look like they're cardboard cutouts at first, but I don't care. We just get some good conversations and it's well written. I was considering saying that episode 7 was cut-worthy, but honestly it's worth it for the fact alone that Yuasa says fuck ultranationalism. And this entire like mega ship of crazy Japanese nationalists who were saying only the pure-blooded Japanese people can get on board the ship. It just goes up in flames. And it's really reminiscent of those like vans that drive through Japan on their megaphones, just like spouting, like acting like they're in like the war period of Japan. They're literally crazy right-wingers. And that ship just goes up in flame, and that's worth it enough for episode 7 alone. And it's also getting the plot back on track of Japan actually sinking, compared to those cold episodes which had literally nothing to do with anything. And not gonna lie, part of the reason I am doing this unscripted video is just so I can plug one of our videos, which is on Animarchy's channel, and it's a video I edited, so I put a lot of hard work into this. It's an hour-long video, and it's about how anime will save Japan. The video talks about, at length, going back through Japanese history of how conservatism has plagued Japan, and how anime, a progressive medium, is working to change that. And Japan Sinks 2020 is one of those more optimistic shows that is looking forward and not backwards. It's analyzing the flaws of conservatism, those nationalists that are damaging people, and literally in this show, like hurting other people. Like the main characters are on a ship, and when that nationalist boat just blows up because they had these rigged megaphones, they thought they could just like say anything they wanted. It causes a fire, it blows up, oil spills everywhere, shrapnel just flies out, and now we're on a raft, basically, with the main cast. Sorry people who think anime is not political, but this is clearly a political message, and conservatism will get everyone nowhere. Really though, please watch that hour-long documentary. It's a good video. It goes way more in depth on how we think Japan is heading as a country and the problems it faces. And it just talks about a lot of anime that are dealing with it. But this one is also another extension of that. It deals with it so well that this is why I'm optimistically talking about it. Yuasa just goes ham with how these young characters are looking forward. Their entire nation may be sinking, but at the end of the day, they come together as like a group of people. They're not ultra-nationalists, they're not the crazy ones who say only Japanese people can live here, but they take pride in their nation. This anime is very 2020 oriented. The reason it came out right now is because there was supposed to be like the 2020 Japan Olympics. I actually don't know if that's still going on. COVID might have ruined the plans. I'm not exactly sure how that's going. And by far, the best scene of the show is the rap battle that was included And yeah, a lot of people are saying this is just like straight out of Devilman Crybaby, and I welcome it. This is a great scene. So the YouTuber Kite is obviously my favorite character in the entire show, with a close second being Go, which is the young esports kid. He's a very close second. But Kite just as like suggests, they're on this piece of land. It's like the last piece of Japan left that's like coming back up, because apparently after it sinks due to science reasons, some of it rises again. So they're having this rap battle at this hot spring, and the young kid just goes off of how he hates this like mindset of how any nail sticking out has to be hammered back in. And one of our other characters raps back at him that, at least Japan has a very respectful society. And he's kind of right, like, Americans compared to Japanese people are just completely disrespectful. I see where he's coming from, like, there's some good qualities. And then we get our main heroine who does her rap, and her rap basically says one of the more powerful things of this show, I think, which goes back to the dialogue being the most important. And she literally says, like, she says some, like, no borders stuff, whatever. But then she says, like, it doesn't matter where I am, it just matters who I'm with. And, like, we've seen a lot of scumbags throughout this entire show. But at the end of the day, the dialogue is the best part. The main cast of characters is just cool. And, like, it was a good time that we were with these characters. It doesn't matter we are in the stupidest anime ever. I'm just having a good time with these characters. And that's what matters at the end of the day in Japan Sinks 2020. And I'm just so fascinated by this show because, like, the other, Japan Sinks installments, I'm obviously not in touch with them. They're a bit older. But this one is so modern. Like, I can't get over the fact that, like, they just talk about the internet, and the network is just an essential part of the story. Joe from Positive Select brought up a point where, like, in previous ones, there was, like, this Australian Prime Minister, and he's like, I will only send aid to Japan sinking if you give me your artifacts. And it just implied that the only thing Japan was worth for, since it wasn't, like, a military power post-war, is that they just had cool artifacts. But in this 2020 version, there's like this more human-oriented like network thing where like we can have empathy for anyone across the globe. It's very, very odd. And as a socialist, I'm vibing with this, is that you can just have empathy with anyone. Like our main character, Gamer Kid, is like playing games with people from Estonia. As an American who doesn't understand geography, I didn't even know where Estonia was, and this is just cool. The network just makes this like a smaller place. Our YouTuber Kite, though while he puts on like this narcissistic facade, is just the coolest character in the show, and is actually the most selfless character in the show. It's quite odd. I don't even know if that's true. Like, name one YouTuber that is that selfless. I'd have a hard time finding a few. And by the way, Kite, there's a scene where, as a kid, he was wearing a skirt, and I'm pretty sure this is very subtle, and I had to read some Reddit comments to even get this, but I'm pretty sure the show is just saying trans rights, so yeah, that's another good element of the show, and that's pretty cool. So, like, the end of the show, I mean, I don't think this is really a spoiler or anything, but, like, Japan may have sunk, but it's all uploaded to the cloud. Don't worry, all of the culture is uploaded onto this digital cloud of photos. It's so funny. It's like, it's literally saying, I think, like, oh, you don't even need to go to Japan. You can just look at images. You can just be a weeb. The new channel name is Weeb Revolution, so I just gotta accept this, I guess, now. What I believe this is getting at, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments too, because there's a lot to unpack here in this show. When 3/11 happened and that tsunami happened, there really was just like an outpouring of support to Japan from the internet. Like, it went so far that I remember playing back in the day Roblox when this thing happened, and there was just like this Roblox t-shirt on the store you could buy, and the number of shirts sold there would just go to like this charity to help out Japan during that event. Like, it's Roblox. So I'm just all for this net positivity, but at the same time we just have to be aware that, like, is this liberal? I mean, I don't know. Like, YouTubers, should we recuperate them into society, or is this Kite guy, is he just like Logan Paul, just in Japan? Like, he looked like he could have been from like Devilman and just like turned evil, and like there was one point where he pretended he was, but he was actually just doing selfless things. So that's cool. But my point is that this show is entirely optimistic about younger people, to the point where it's like, or maybe it's a bit too optimistic, but I'll just take these good feelings. It's a good time, and I recommend this show. I also recommend Gatchaman Crowds because, yeah, that's also another show about like networks and dealing with disasters. So yeah, that's a good one too. And yeah, I'm really surprised that it was just such a, like, this is the age we live in now, where like the cell phone you have really matters, and like anime need to address how everyone has a cell phone. It's quite odd, like this new territory we're in. What matters more, your nation sinking or your cell phone connection? I'll leave that question up to you.